The biggest factor affecting the silver price and gold price that nobody is talking about: de-dollarization, the petrodollar's demise. How will it impact the price of gold and silver as we move into the coming quarters and years? It will have a major impact. A lot of people don't think about it or talk about it because they don't necessarily understand it. I'm going to tell you what's going on right now with China, with Saudi Arabia, and the petrodollar, but more importantly, give you an easy to understand explanation to what the petrodollar is, was, and why it's such a big deal. What is the petrodollar? You are smart enough to understand this, just as the name implies. Petrodollar, oil dollar. Brief history lesson. 1971, President Richard Nixon takes the United States off the gold standard so he could print money. That was only temporary, but it's been 50 years now. Nonetheless, 1974, they send Kissinger over to Saudi Arabia with the message of, we'd really prefer that from now on you only sell oil in dollars. And if you don't go along with us, well, there may be some pretty unfortunate circumstances for you. Needless to say, around 1974, the Saudis and all the Persian area countries agreed to sell oil only in dollars. Big deal, right? Yes, big deal for a couple reasons. Number one, oil is the lifeblood of the world economy. Oil is everything, guys. The biggest market in the world. It's energy, it's plastics, it's thousands and thousands everywhere. Oil is everything. So when oil was only traded in dollars, what resulted was there were a lot of countries that needed dollars. And on top of that, when they sold oil, there were a lot of big countries with a lot of dollars, and they were confused as to what to do with them. And you know what? The United States government was there to accommodate their each and every need, because our government said, we'll take your dollars back, we'll borrow them from you. And that allowed the United States over the last 50 years to rack up an incredible amount of debt, because there were always buyers for the U.S. treasuries, because everybody had a lot of dollars, because that's how everything was traded, was in dollars. So the petrodollar enabled the United States to run huge deficits, allowed us to really live beyond our means at the expense of other people throughout the world. Fast forward to today, there's major changes going on in the world, including China recently conducting oil transactions in yuan, their native currency. Now, that is a big deal because China and Saudi Arabia have been becoming very, very close. It was a big political coup that occurred over the last year. Remember when President Joe Biden ran over to Saudi Arabia right before the midterm elections to beg them to pump more oil? And all he got from MBS, that's the president of Saudi Arabia, was a fist pump, right? And then 2 weeks later, President Xi from China shows up in Saudi Arabia, and they have like cavalry horses leading his plane down the runway, and fighter jets flying over with smoke of the Chinese flag. I mean, they gave him like the grand welcome. And after that, it was very interesting. The Saudi Arabians announced that they would start selling oil outside of just the U.S. dollar system. It is a big deal because it signifies a major shift in the world financial system, and it's not good news for the United States because right now we find ourselves in a period of time where we need to borrow more money than almost any other time in history. If you're looking to buy gold, silver, or platinum, do yourself a favor and check out Pembex, the online precious metals bullion dealer and sponsor of Ron's Basement. I was a happy customer before they offered to support the channel. You'll find they have the best prices, quality, and service. I think Pembex is best, and you will too. And be sure to tell them that you're from Ron's Basement. And just this month in October, the Chinese announced their first Petro-Yuan contract. And it's even more interesting when you understand the Chinese bought oil in Chinese yuan, but it wasn't just regular Chinese yuan. It was actually their new CBDC. This demonstrates to us that this whole idea of de-dollarization is for real. It's not just a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. Also consider that almost half of the world's oil reserves are held in these Persian Gulf countries. And right now, they supply 30% of the oil to the world. First Mining Gold is a development company advancing two of the largest gold projects in Canada. Springpole in Ontario and Duparquet, located in Quebec, each already has 5 million ounces of gold reserves, but exploration initiatives are underway at both projects to find even more gold. First Mining is well-financed, has zero debt, and owns an interest in 4 additional Canadian gold development projects. Big deal, right? Yes, this is a big deal, especially for the precious metals on several fronts, because as this de-dollarization continues, as the petrodollar continues to fall apart, it will result in the value of the dollar going down, and nothing has been correlated to the price of silver and gold, especially over the last couple years, as the value of the dollar. Dollar down, silver and gold up. But wait, there's more. A bonus factor, because we know now that the Chinese are buying oil for yuan. We also know that when the Saudis get that yuan, they can immediately convert it to, yeah, you guessed it, real physical gold. Because not only do they have a separate exchange for the petro-yuan trading, they also have their own exchange for precious metals trading in China called the SGE, the Shanghai Gold Exchange. So when the Saudis get their yuan, they can immediately convert that for real physical gold, because the SGE is a real physical market. Oh, and by the way, another little bonus. Isn't it interesting that gold trades almost $100 per ounce higher in China on the SGE? Things are changing everywhere, and it's not just oil where we're seeing this shift towards moving away from the dollar and trading in native currencies. Argentina has done some trades with China directly in Chinese yuan. All over the world, it's growing. Yes, the dollar is still dominant, but what we're seeing is an explicit move away from the dollar and to other currencies, primarily the Chinese yuan. And isn't it also interesting that the Chinese are pushing the use of their CBDC? We know CBDCs are coming, and it appears that China is in the forefront in that area as well. It will become very interesting as we move into the next couple years how this impacts many things, right? The ability of the United States government to loan money into infinity doesn't seem like that's going to be happening to the extent that it did over the last several decades. And again, just at a time when the United States government needs to borrow more money than any other time in history, like $16 trillion in the coming 12 to 18 months alone. It's going to be a wild ride. You know I'll be here with you through it all, ups and downs, round and round, as the dollar goes through this process and the price of silver and gold. Well, hopefully together we're going to watch that go up and up. Thanks for being here. I'll see you soon.